Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the, wow, did we add some extra juice to the microphone or is it just, okay, cool. Anyway, good evening, everyone. Welcome to this November 1st meeting of council committees. Really grateful for you all for being here tonight. A couple of housekeeping items before we get going. First and foremost, if you look here and here, you will see that there are two cameras responsible for live streaming the meeting, just so you know that this meeting is being recorded. Second, now is a perfect opportunity to put your cell phones on silent or vibrate or turn them off altogether. And then third, when you do come to the mic, please begin with your name and the block of your residence. So that is to say the 300 block of East Clay for our record keeping. And do endeavor to keep your comments 2-3 minutes in length, civil and to the point, though of course each committee chair runs their own committee meeting. With that, welcome. Mr. Harris, if you would do the roll call of members, please.
Yes, Mr. President. Mr. Arroyo.
Here.
Ms. Baker.
Here.
Mr. Cleese.
Here.
Ms. Craig.
Here.
Ms. Diaz.
Here.
Ms. Walsh.
Here.
And President Smith-Waddell.
Here. We go then to the approval of the October 3rd and October 25th committee meeting minutes with the understanding that all members of council have received the minutes for both the October committee meeting and the special meeting of the Finance Committee. So I'll hear a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Are there council comments on either of the minutes? Okay, hearing none. Mr. Harris.
Mr. Arroyo.
Aye.
Ms. Baker.
Aye.
Mr. Cleese.
Aye.
Ms. Craig.
Aye.
Ms. Diaz.
Aye.
Ms. Walsh.
Aye.
And President Smith-Waddell.
Aye. All right, thank you very much, and here we go. We begin with the Personnel Committee. Councilor Calixte.
Thank you, Council President. And the Personnel Committee has on the agenda for tonight 4 nominations. And the first nomination is Julie Hughes. It's a nomination for reappointment to the Historical Architectural Review Board. And the second nomination is Glenn Ebersol. It's a reappointment for the Lancaster Industrial Development Authority. And the third nomination is Richard Stauffer for reappointment to the Lancaster Airport Authority. And the fourth nomination is Terry Bouchard. It's an appointment to the Downtown Investment District Authority. That's all for the Personnel Committee. Okay. So the first nomination for reappointment is Julie Hughes. Is there any questions from other members of the committee on this nomination?
I don't see Julie here this evening, but this is a reappointment, and she's has been serving on this particular board. So I would make a motion that we move this forward to full council on the 7th.
Second. All in favors?
Aye.
Okay. And the second nomination is Glenn Ebersol. It's a reappointment to the Lancaster Industrial Development Authority. Is there any question or comments from the committee? From members of council? From the public? I'll make a motion to move this nomination to our full council meeting next Monday on November 7th.
Second.
All in favors?
Aye.
Okay. And the third nomination is Richard Stauffer. It's a reappointment to the Lancaster Airport Authority. Is there any questions or comments from other members of the committee? Any comments from council? Any comments from the public? I'll make a motion to move this nomination to our full council meeting on November 7th.
Second.
All in favors?
Aye.
Okay, and the third nomination is Terry Bouchard. It's an appointment to the Downtown Investment District Authority. Mr.
And he is here? Yep.
Yes. Would you
along
please?
with other members of the Downtown Improvement District.
Okay. Good evening, gentlemen.
I am Dave Azel, I'm the Executive Director of the Downtown Investment District. It's a pleasure to be here before you this evening. We had a board member who left the area from city, she moved to Texas County, which opened up a position on the DID Board of Directors. We were pleased to have Teddy Bouchard come forward. He's been helping out with DID merchant meetings for quite a while, almost 2 years. And we approached him and asked him if he had an interest in serving on the DID board, and he was gracious enough to accept that invitation from us. So we're pleased to offer him before council this evening to be a member of our board.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Butcher. Thank you for being here tonight. And why do you want to serve?
Thank you, committee, for having me today. Appreciate to see all of you. A lot of different reasons why I want to be on the committee. Just the time I've spent working with everybody on the team. I look at it as having a business on the being a merchant and having a business. A lot of people gave me opportunity. I want to do the same thing for people coming after me. I want to set a difference and bridge the gap as any way I can possible. That's why I want to serve.
And what would you like to accomplish in this position?
I
What
would
are your
like to.
goals?
Sorry, was that?
What are your goals?
My goal is to help the city thrive. And kind of like I was saying before, the first question, just different businesses. I feel like what the DID is doing as far as the ambassadors, as far as what we do within the city, as far as Lancaster City Alliance as well, we are helping different businesses thrive, and that's what I want to do.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments from other members of the committee?
Hi, Mr. Bouchard, thank you so much for being here this evening. You made, there's a mention in your recommendation letter that you helped select speakers for merchant meetings. Can you talk a little bit about what types of speakers you brought in and how that was helpful to business owners like yourself?
As far as brought in, can you explain that a little more? I'm sorry.
Oh, there was mention that you had worked in the intro marketing committee previously, before being nominated, and that you help bring speakers in to speak to local merchants during the merchant meetings. Can you talk a little bit about what types of speakers or what topics were important to business owners like yourself?
Right. Yeah, I think a big topic one was just mental health. Bringing in speakers as far as new businesses coming in, like there's a business called Pop Color that came in. They were in our shop originally, and we brought them just to kind of showcase as well. And yes, sorry, can you give me the second part of your question? I'm sorry.
Oh, I just wondered, how that was valuable to business owners like yourself.
I think it was very, very valuable. One, just to make that connection, and two, giving that space of just like, hey, here's what we're doing. Here's all the people, just so you can move along with their process.
Terrific. Thank you very much, and thank you for your willingness to serve.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
Any other questions from members of the committee? From council as a whole? From the public? I make a motion. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you for your willingness to serve.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So much.
I'll make a motion to move this nomination to our next council meeting on November 7th.
Second.
All in favors?
Aye.
Thank you, Council President. That's all for the Personnel Committee tonight.
Thank you, Councilor Kalik. Thank you, Mr. Bouchard, for being, and y'all are, of course, welcome to hang out, but I don't want to say you're not needed, but you're free to go as you like. So we go then to the Community Planning Committee. Councilor Craig.
Thank you, Council President. We have 3 items on the agenda this evening. First of them being Administration Resolution Number 86, 2022, amending the sewer control plan for the 40 Longfellow Drive project. And I do believe Director Delph is here to address that.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, members of the public. Councilor Craig, I just have a few words to say about this particular application. This is a sewer control planning module, which you've heard many times before with respect to proposed land developments. The first one that we're starting with here is 40 Longfellow Drive, is that correct?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. 40 Longfellow Drive is located on the eastern edge of the city. There's an arm of city land that extends up through East Lampeter Township and connects right along the southern edge of Lincoln Highway. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that particular neighborhood. It is primarily suburban-style single-family homes along Longfellow Drive. The proposal related to this application is the creation of a new small apartment building with 4 units on a single lot. Our city team has reviewed to ensure that there is sewer capacity available for that particular land development and have deemed that acceptable.
So this is a new land development?
Yes, there currently is nothing on the lot, so it would be new construction of a small apartment building with 4 units.
Great. I don't have any questions. Are there any questions from the committee? Any questions from the public? Then I will hear a motion to move this to full council.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. And we will move on to Administration Resolution Number 87, amending the sewer control plan for Morel Properties Project.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Craig.
You're welcome.
This is also another affirmation of sewer capacity for this particular land development action. This is actually, unlike the last item, this is not a new construction. This is an existing property on 317 and 319 North Mary Street. It's a little bit of an unusual subdivision situation. There's a piece of 319 North Mary Street that is being subdivided and added to 317 North Mary Street. As part of that land, there's an existing garage structure, and the owner intends to add a residential unit on the second floor of that existing garage, so, essentially to have an accessory dwelling unit for that property. Again, our city team has taken a look at it and has no issues with the sewer capacity involved with that action.
Great. So we've done these like 1,000 times, and this sewer plan control is basically just to make sure that the property has enough of what it needs so it doesn't run into any problems as far as sewage.
That's correct. So anytime there is a change of use that falls under certain eligibility requirements, the city is required to ensure that we've got capacity for that change or that new use.
Great. Are there any questions from the committee? Any questions from the public? I'll hear a motion to move this to full council. What is the date of Tuesday?
It's the 7th, we're on for Monday.
That's right, Monday, on the 7th.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
The last item on our agenda is Administration Bill Number 22, amending the property maintenance ordinance. And I saw Mr. Nixon is here to address that. Good evening.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council. Yes, so the Bureau of Property Maintenance and Housing Inspections, intent and purpose of Chapter 223 is to adopt a modern property maintenance code which will prescribe effective standards and minimum requirements for safeguarding the persons and buildings located throughout the city of Lancaster and protect the public of health, safety, and citizens and visitors against hazards of inadequate and effective housing for unsafe existing structures. This adoption of IPMC 2021 will provide the city's code officials establish minimum requirements for the maintenance and existing buildings through model of code regulations that contain clear and specific property maintenance provisions that are adopted under IPMC 2021, which ensures that properties of the City of Lancaster are held to the most up-to-date and provision standards, which ensures our residents safe and quality housing. IPMC 2021 consists of 8 chapters, which covers enforcement of administration requirements, industry definitions, basic equipment requirements, light, ventilation, and occupancy limitations, sanitation, plumbing, mechanical, and electrical, as well as reference standards. Chapter 7 of this code will be adopted under IPMC 2018, which will align to the current building code as well as fire codes that the city has.
Great, thank you. I don't have any questions. Are there any questions from the committee? Questions from the public? Go ahead, Tim.
Tim Stuhlger, One United Lancaster. What will the amendments mean for property owners?
So property owners as well as rental property owners, the codes that are in this is what governs the code enforcement standards. So it tells our public how they're.
Any major changes between what their obligations are now and what their obligations will be?
Okay, no, there's no major changes that are going into effect. We're just moving to the most up-to-date code so that we can be aligned with all codes moving forward.
Thank you. I'll make a motion to move this to full council on the 7th.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Council President, that concludes community planning.
Thank you, Councilor Craig. That brings us to, I'm having trouble not smiling as I say this, that brings us to the Economic Development Committee, where I think Councilor Arroyo has some exciting updates to share with us. Councilor.
Thank you, Council President. Some very exciting updates. We have one item on the agenda for this evening's committee meeting, Administration Bill Number 23, 2022, which is appropriating the American Rescue Plan Act funds for affordable housing projects. A few updates regarding the process of this award that we'll be announcing tonight. We received 14 applications from 13 organizations requesting $15,928,340. In December of 2021, Council approved the allocation of $5 million for affordable housing projects and subsequently approved $1 million in funding to HDC Mid-Atlantic, leaving $4 million to award through this request for proposal. The committee recommends to council that an additional $5 million be allocated at this time for total investment into the affordable housing of $10 million. And before we arrive at the awards, I want to share how applications were reviewed and scored. A committee of 3 elected officials and 2 city staff scored the proposals. It is important to note that the city follows a strict conflict of interest policy that is posted publicly on the city's website, and the criteria that was utilized was as follows. The number of units to be produced or rehabilitated with a priority on production of units, leveraging other funding sources, level of affordability and affordability protections, compatibility with the city's housing study and interim housing strategy, ability to complete prior to 12/31/2026, and the applicant's capacity and experience. Applications reflecting production of new units requesting more than $7 million. The committee recommends funding of 5 of those organizations with $4 million for the production of 85 total new units as follows. The awardees will be SDL Devco LLC for $2 million, the YWCA Lancaster for $500,000, Chestnut Housing Corporation for $550,000, Community Basics, Inc. for $500,000, and Lancaster Area Habitat for Humanity for $450,000, for a total of $4 million and 85 total new units. Applications reflecting the protection and preservation of units requested more than $8 million through this process. The committee recommends funding 5 of those organizations with $3.375 million for the preservation of 445 total units as follows. Partners with Purpose for $500,000, Tenfold for $1 million, Saka Development Corporation for $850,000, and Lancaster City Housing Authority for $1,050,000, for a total of $3,400,000 and a total of 443 units preserved. The committee recommends that the remaining $1.6 million be set aside to invest in the homelessness continuum of care, contingent upon a match from the County of Lancaster. The administration has already started these conversations with the county to that effect. We also want to note that this total $10 million into affordable housing, more than $4 million will impact projects in the homelessness continuum, preserving and creating desperately needed emergency shelter and transitional units for those in our community most at risk. We anticipate working with the County Redevelopment Authority through an intermunicipal agreement around next steps for the remaining $1.6 million. We are proud of these recommendations we are making and grateful for all the applicants for their tireless work for the city residents. At this time, I'll take any questions or comments from the committee.
Councilor Arroyo, the total number of new units of affordable housing, where did that put us?
Total new units at 85 total new units.
Well, I mean, everything in total, new, refurbished.
Plus the 443, quick math.
That would be 528 units total.
Thank you, Mayor.
528?
Yes.
Let's go celebrate. Okay, I'm done.
And I would just like to thank Council President and Councilor Arroyo for participating in the review of the proposals. We had some pretty robust conversation as we were reviewing the proposals and making our recommendations. I'm counting myself on the team as part of the recommendations to council. We also had our Rebecca Geiser from Community Planning and Economic Development, and Sonia LeBron, who's our city housing social worker, who was also reviewing from the perspective of helping folks navigate housing and housing resources in the city, participate in the committee. Happy to answer, as well as anybody else that was on the committee, any specifics related to the proposals in summation. I believe that getting 85 total units for an investment of $4 million, not including the prospective units on Marietta Avenue, that HDC, is something that we should feel quite proud of, as well as preserving an additional 443 total units. The bulk of those are with the Lancaster City Housing Authority, and then the next is with Partners with Purpose as part of their scattered site housing and continuing to preserve that scattered site housing. Next up would be Tenfold with a specific investment of $1 million in the Transitional Living Center on King Street and the renovation of that property, which serves over 70 individuals, if I'm remembering that correctly, who are veterans, who are in supportive housing, as well as transitional housing. And then the final with Saka Development is the Cigar Factory Building, which is 30 total apartments, which has not seen any new investment in 20-plus years.
Thank you for that context, Mayor. Any comments or questions from council as a whole?
Councilor Arroyo, if I may. First of all, just want to say thank you to the CPED team, to the mayor, Councilor Arroyo, and to Sonia, who is not available to be here this evening, who provided a really, so if you don't know Sonia, you should get to know Ms. LeBron. She does some of the work that at least I'm proudest of here at the City of Lancaster, directly engaging with the housing needs of many of our most vulnerable residents. And the mayor is kind to refer to them as robust discussions, but really this is something that we've been going back and forth with for a long time. And I just think that we've done something really incredible, and I don't want to forget to note that, and I don't want to forget to note our the various partners who are present in the room to make that happen. If you'll permit me to do something on my feet, just to say, I believe you are correct, Mayor. It is, last I checked with Jen, 72 individuals across 4 programs. Does that sound about right? Yeah, for TLC. Yeah. Right. Yeah. And it's just, I'll say, as coming from the job that I just left at the Lancaster County Homelessness Coalition, without TLC, sort of the network falls apart. There's so much capacity there that's really crucial. Obviously, the Lancaster City Housing Authority, which actually, Barb, I think you put it fantastically in an interview earlier, that there are some 3,500 individuals, is that in the city of Lancaster, who rely on the City Housing Authority in one way or another. This is a city of 60,000 people. That's 5% of our residents. And because often it's not new, or it's not necessarily flashy, the maintenance of our housing stock that the City Housing Authority does often goes overlooked. And so I also want to thank the mayor and the committee for their willingness to expand, not just to new units, but also to the critical preservation projects that we have tonight, and for being willing to set aside funding for the continuum of care, our homelessness services. And if you'll give me a second more, I'll get off my soapbox, and it's just to say this. In 2019, and I think we've all seen this, in 2019, the federal government released a report on encampments nationwide. This is before the pandemic, and they said that homeless encampments had reached a level nationwide not seen in almost a century. And if you got to think about what almost a century before 2019 is, that's the Great Depression that we're talking about. The housing crisis in this nation is very real, and it does not get talked about enough. And all of that was before the ravages of the COVID-19 pandemic. So I'm so proud of the work that this council, the administration, and the committee have taken to get us to this point, and I'm really grateful for the work of our partners. And with that, I'll shut the heck up. But thank you, Councilor Royal.
Yeah, thank you, Council President. Any other comment, Mayor?
I just want to focus just for a minute on the development of the new units, because there are some things that are embedded in this that are very exciting for our neighborhoods. Obviously, SDL Devco is the largest with 45 units. That is the property that is being considered at the former Stockyards restaurant. The YWCA of Lancaster we've heard about, because they've also received home funds. That is the addition of 16 new transitional living units by reconfiguring their third floor. The Chestnut Housing Corporation is affiliated with the East Chestnut Street Mennonite Church. That is going to be for the renovation of a property on Rockland that backs up to, the name just left me, the park. Milburn Park, thank you. Backs up to Milburn Park and will be very important to rehabilitate that blighted property, bringing on 8 units. Community Basics is planning a acquiring a property through Rackle and looking to build a 9-unit parcel that will provide housing for children who are aging out of foster care and young adults, providing a really critical need in our community that currently does not exist. And then last but not least is Lancaster Area Habitat for Humanity, which is contemplating potentially 4 new units or more on a property that they are partnering with HDC Mid-Atlantic. And then the 3 additional units are existing homes that are currently vacated / condemned. One is on Fremont, one is on Poplar, and the third Habitat team? St. Joe's. So investing in our southwest neighborhood as well. So just want to give everybody a little bit of context to what the proposals are for both the new construction as represented here, as well as the rehabilitation and protection. So I do also just want to give a shout out to the CPED team one more time, which is just to say their interim housing plan that they presented last fall in October has really guided this work. There are 5 strategies part of this plan. If council does proceed to support these recommendations as presented, we will be supporting 3 of the 5 recommendations in that plan. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Any other comments or questions from council?
I have one other question. So the additional 1.6 million left to allocate, do we know the process for that? Has the committee made a recommendation for what will happen with those dollars?
Yeah.
We know what will happen, but how that will happen.
Mayor, would you like to speak to that process?
Just to say that we had a very productive meeting last week with the County Redevelopment Authority and Commissioner D'Agostino to just talk through what an intermunicipal agreement could look like. We made clear, sort of what we are looking for. We are very much aligned in the goals. And basically, if these funds are awarded, they would be allocated to this use, and it would come back to council for a final vote on what that intermunicipal agreement would entail. As it is an intermunicipal agreement, council would have the purview to review and approve that.
Great, thank you.
Yep.
Councilor Arroyo.
Councilor Craig.
I'm just pleased to hear that a group of young people that have essentially been forgotten have been included. The children, the young people that are aging out of the system and usually have nowhere to go, or, very little resource, but I'm glad it's being addressed.
Thank you. Councilor Diaz?
I'm excited and very happy that Barb will be able to use those funds, because I've been in those apartments and they're deplorable, and I think that those residents are going to be very happy to be able to have reconstructions in their homes. Thank you.
Just one final comment from myself. Just very pleased that after reviewing what was over 400 pages worth of proposals, it was very telling to see the need that was needed in our community. And very thankful for the committee in recommending an increase in the allocated amount to not only include new housing units, but also preserving the existing housing stock, which really lends itself to making sure that the most vulnerable among us also have higher quality of living, which is also important when we're thinking about affordable housing and living conditions. So just personally grateful for that, that was taken into consideration in this ordinance, and very, very happy that the committee put it forward. Any questions from the public?
Two questions. One, regarding the continuum of care funds, just briefly, what uses would those be put for? Would that be expanded shelter capacity?
We're in the process of having that conversation now. There is conversation, obviously, about expanded shelter capacity as one area. I think the complicating factor, quite honestly, Tim, is that there are multiple different funding sources, and where there are gaps we're trying to fill in, and we're still trying to sort all of that out with the county as part of their continuum of care. In addition to the $1.6 million, as Councilor Arroyo noted, there are two proposals that are also contributing to the continuum of care, which is the funding of the renovations at TLC, as well as new housing for young adults aging out of foster care.
Other question has to do with the renovations. Like you said, the Housing Authority is aware that housing authorities have their own funding streams and
Yeah.
sometimes be complicated.
In fact, they do have their own funding streams, but those funding streams are not sufficient for the age of the buildings and the needs that are there. And so the kinds of improvements that Barb and her team are working on have to do with roof replacements and HVAC system upgrades in buildings that have exceeded their useful life for those systems. And so these are a structural major renovations that have to happen in buildings that have, quite frankly, they're beyond their useful life for these systems that our residents rely on to stay warm and stay cool.
And just, it's an eligible use, and that's certainly.
Oh, we've had lawyers and lawyers and lawyers, yes. I will say that all of these awards are contingent upon the successful completion and negotiation of a sub-awardee and all of the contracts and amendments that will be required for that, as well as reporting, et cetera, et cetera. So this is all very exciting. This is the very first step to, I think, doing a lot more celebrating over the course of the next several weeks in terms of these awards, and I look forward to celebrating with council. But this first step is to move it from the committee to council.
Any other questions or comments from the public? Alrighty. Well, with that, I'll hear a motion to move this bill to full council on Monday, November 7th.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So moved. That concludes the agenda for that. That concludes the committee, Council
There we
President.
go. I was going to say, I couldn't hear you over.
I don't do that often.
All right. We move now to the Committee of the Whole. That's all of us. And we have one item where we'll be considering Council Resolution Number 88, 2022, which calls for the repeal of the Jones Act. And I think Councilor Diaz, who requested this resolution, is going to give us a little education on what that means. Councilor.
For many years, Puerto Rico has paid $537 million per year, even through the island's fiscal crisis. The fact is, there are islands that are part and territory of the United States that have been exempt from the Jones Act, despite Puerto Rico paying 5 times the amount of taxes to the United States. This is unfair, and it's been here for years. I ask not only this resolution, but everyone to go to Washington, contact your senators, contact your House of Representatives and Congress, because this is unacceptable. I am happy to know that my father's well and his roof is fixed, but there are millions of people without a home, without electric, without water. And this is not just since Maria and Fiona. This has been around for years. Today, I'd like Maria Diaz to add a little more fire to this situation in our island of Puerto Rico.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council. My name is Maria Diaz. I am the Advocacy Specialist for CASA. I'm here tonight to talk about the Jones Act and how it's discriminatory toward Puerto Ricans, preventing them from directly trading with other countries. What is the Jones Act? It is a federal law that prevents international vessels from docking in Puerto Rican ports and directly trading with the territory. Instead, it requires the goods to be shipped to the U.S. ports to then be transported on ships that are built, owned, and operated by U.S. citizens and permanent residents. The Jones Act, also known as the Merchant Marine Act of 1920, was passed in the wake of the First World War in order to boost the domestic shipping industry. So how is it discriminative against Puerto Ricans? It has increased the cost of shipping to Puerto Rico, Hawaii, Alaska, as well as other non-continental U.S. lands that rely on imports by restricting the number of ships that can be delivered goods. The supply of American-built, owned, and operated ships are relatively small compared to the global supply of ships. This creates a scenario in which domestic shipping companies charge exponentially higher rates due to the lack of competition. Consumers fall further in debt to finance purchases, trying to maintain a quality of life. According to a report published by the American Maritime Partnership, on a national scale wide, Puerto Rico has an estimate of $1.5 billion in increased cost annually because of the Jones Act. As of 2022, Puerto Rico has a 44% poverty rate, according to the Center of Budget and Policy Priorities. A 2012 study conducted by New York Federal Reserve found that the cost of transportation of a shipping container to Puerto Rico from the mainland was 2.5 times higher than shipping the same container from a foreign port. It is now 2022. It's been 102 years since the act was passed. The American shipping industry is dying. In fact, since 1960, the U.S. cargo fleet has fallen from 16% of the world's fleet to only 0.2%. The Jones Act no longer benefits the United States, and it has never benefited Puerto Rico. As I mentioned before, the cost of transportation of a shipping container to Puerto Rico from the mainland is more than twice as high as shipping from containers from a foreign port. During a natural disaster, the Jones Act can be waived if the president deems acceptable, so that Puerto Rico can get aid that they need across the globe to keep their citizens alive. The thing about waiving the act after a disaster is that after a period of time, the Jones Act will come back into place. Not considering if Puerto Rico could still need help. Waivers were issued during Hurricane Harvey and Irma, but they were only granted for 10 days. Only 3 ships were reached Puerto Rico during that time. People lost their homes, their businesses, their jobs. They did not have enough money to get basic necessities imported from the mainland. Less so after having to spend money on repairs. At least with a waiver for a period of time, Puerto Rico could get imports from foreign ships. That changed in 2020, when the National Defense Authorization Act was amended to change the waiver requirements, making it even harder to provide them. We as a group have a responsibility to Puerto Rico. We are failing them every day when we hinder their access to basic necessities. When human beings are the most vulnerable point of their lives, we allow policymakers behind their desks to decide the cost of effectiveness of their fate. Repealing the Jones Act would allow ships from other countries to trade with Puerto Rico. It would grant families, business owners, and school teachers the opportunity to play a role in their economy's success, allowing to flourish and grow as they decide. Thank you.
Thank you, Maria. She extended the history of it, and I personally lived Hurricane Hugo, and since then I can say that Puerto Rico has not been rebuilt. And the money that LUMA has received to build the electric grid is still failing the island. I ask everyone to contact the United States Congress to repeal the Jones Act so people don't die Many hospitals have closed. This is what we're looking at, and this is what we're pleading everyone to unite. Thank you, President.
Thank you, Councilor Diaz. Comments from other members of the committee, which again is all of you. Comments from the public? Okay, I actually don't think we had a motion, so
Motion to move the full council on Monday, November 7th.
Second.
okay, we have a motion and a second. One more time, comments or questions from the committee or the public? Okay, I think this is an easy one for us. Hearing none, Mr. Harris.
Yes, Mr. President. Mr. Arroyo.
Aye.
Ms. Baker.
Aye.
Mr. Calise.
Aye.
Ms. Craig.
Aye.
Ms. Diaz.
Aye.
Ms. Walsh.
Aye.
And President Smith-Waddell.
Aye. Mr. Harris, with Councilor Diaz's concurrence, would you draft a copy and a letter to be forwarded to the offices of Representative Smucker and Senator Casey on council's behalf?
After the 7th, I assume.
Thank you. That concludes the business of the Committee of the Whole and moves us to the clerk's report. Mr. Harris.
Yes, Mr. President. So in the last month, I drafted the Jones Act resolution, which we've just reviewed. I wrote the resolution recognizing Charlie Smithgall that was approved at our last council meeting. Prepared the sewer plan resolutions that are before you this evening. Research deeds on alleyways. Research deed information on West King Street properties on the request of city staff. Provided an ordinance to the solicitor's office. Provided request a resolution for a constituent. And arranged for an error in a recent ordinance to be corrected in the online city code. Arranged to renew my notary so that I can continue to notarize documents on behalf of the city. Attended the parking authority meeting that was on the 27th and sent you a summary of that. And did various miscellaneous tasks.
Thank you, Mr. Harris. All right. With that, and again, thank you to Councilor Arroyo, to the review committee, the administration, particularly the CPED team, and all of our partners. I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second. I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned. Have a good evening.
Would you be willing to send me a copy of your comments?